Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Insomnia stream.
Hello.
For those of you, we were joking before the show started. For those of you that don't know, it's a lifelong goal of mine to integrate the Rick and Morty soundboard into the stream a little more. And I was looking for one. So does it work? Wait, can you hear it saying anything? Oh, no.
I don't think it's working.
Not working. It was working before the show.
You want me to show you my math?
Oh, it's working now.
Working out. Introductions and it didn't do. Oh, because it's like a category. I was like, anyway. Well, I still haven't learned, but we were fooling around with it. There's also this Dr. Evil soundboard, which I think is even funnier. But I've since learned recently that what year did Austin Powers what year did it come out? 1997. So I made like an Austin Powers joke to someone recently. They're like, "Oh, I haven't seen that," and I was like, "Well, I mean, I think it was in like the second one." They're like, "I haven't seen any of them," and I was like, "What?" And it turns out they were born after the year 2000.
We are getting old, Dimitri.
I don't feel like I should be, but okay. Well, anyway, it's going to be an exciting stream today. I think we have some people here from the community. Welcome. Here, I'll hide my screen for a second. So why don't you maybe guys introduce yourself? So I'm Dimitri. I'm a developer here at Kong. Philippe, you want to head up next?
Yeah, I'm Philippe. I'm a tester at Kong as also like Dimitri, and working on the Insomnia team. And we have Hamed. Hamed, you want to introduce yourself?
We can't hear you if you're talking. Let me see. Maybe Stalin, you can hit us up next.
Hey, I'm Stalin. I work at the company called Innovation Incubator. I'm from India. Yeah.
Awesome. Joe, how about you?
There. My name is József Salai, but I prefer if people call me Joe, especially people who don't speak Hungarian. I am a developer from Romania, and I've been working on several open source projects, one of which is the Insomnia Documenter, which I think you guys discussed about in the previous stream.
Yeah, awesome.
If I recall correctly.
Definitely. I think we have cool. And then how about you, Hamed? Is your audio working yet? Let's see. I'll make sure there's nothing on our side. All I can do is edit your name and remove you. So there we go.
Yeah.
Got you.
Okay, so hello everyone. Yeah, my name is Ahmed Wedele, and yeah, I'm a software engineer from Nigeria. So
Awesome.
I work on open source projects, mostly JavaScript, PHP, and Dart.
Oh, awesome. You work on Dart. I love Dart. Dart uses Redux, or it's very common. Do you use Redux in your Dart app?
No, I use Riverpod and providers mostly.
I got you. I just like Dart because it's one of the common state libraries that's used is like regular Redux, like the same one we use in Insomnia and React. And Philippe is laughing to himself right now because anybody who knows me or works with me knows I love Redux. That's great.
I'm always confused if you do or if you hate it, and it's like sarcasm or something.
It's not sarcasm. I really love it. I feel like I have to be guarded about it though, because a lot of people really hate it. But I think I believe they hate it for the wrong reasons. Like I think they hate it for what it used to be, not what it is today. I don't know. But anyway, maybe we can. Here, that's a better view. So Joe, like maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you work on. You can share your screen, by the way, if you want, or I can pull up the repo and show it on the screen if that's easier.
Sure, I can probably share it. Can I choose which monitor? Yeah.
For the folks at home, Joe created the Insomnia Documenter project, and Hamed also created the Insomnia Documenter plugin for Insomnia. All right, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Yep. All right. So, well, Insomnia Documenter is a project I've worked on a few years ago because I wanted to generate documentation pages from my Insomnia workspaces, especially for my other projects, which were like needed an API documentation. And yeah, I couldn't find a very good solution that works like other software I've used before. I did find the Swagger documentation generator, but I'm not a very big fan of Swagger, if I'm being honest. I like having this kind of layout for this kind of layout for API documentations, where I can see like a description about the requests on one side and an example request and response on the other side. So I decided to create the Insomnia Documenter, which at the time was only available as a CLI tool. And I'm incredibly grateful for Hamed for creating an Insomnia plugin, which streamlines the entire process. This project is written in Svelte. I used to be really into Svelte at the time. It was sort of new technology, and I just had to hop onto it and try to build something cool with it. So that's what the Insomnia Documenter CLI tool uses under the hood, paired with a JavaScript binary, which just generates the whole structure and parses the command line flags and stuff. So yeah, that's the documentation generator. It's very straightforward to use, I think. Where's my Insomnia? It's here. So basically, what you have to do, I've demonstrated this in my tutorial video too, but you can export.
Could you make it as big as possible, like full screen and here? And I'll try to, let's see if I can find a view that will. We're all on the bottom of the screen, so it should be a little bigger. Unfortunately, well, if we have a lot more to show, there's a silly thing with our stream provider, Restream, that when people join, it joins you in at 480p. Maybe you can check in your settings, and sorry to pause you, but just so people at home can see it a little better, I'll show you actually on my screen what it looks like. So here's we're gonna go into the void. Woo, there we go. I love this because when you can anyway, here in the stream view, there's a video thing, and you can click here, and it for whatever reason it defaults to 480p, which makes it very difficult to read text. So maybe check that out.
Yeah, I changed it already. Okay, I think it should be fine now.
Let's see.
I think it's a little better.
Is it a little okay?
Yeah,
so
well, I can more or less read.
1080p.
All right, I can read it. Yeah, it's all good. So let's just go with it and see what we can see.
I zoomed in the application just to see it better. So yeah, I'll give a quick demo to the application. You can basically just click on import export and then export the whole collection. You can't export just a subset of the collection to make it work. It has to be the whole collection. And you click export, and you have to make sure it's the JSON file and not the other two. The Documenter only works with the JSON file. Maybe in the rewrite, I'll add support for the other types too. But right now, it's not a priority for me. So you click on done, and you save it. You must save it under insomnia.json. Yeah. I think there should be a confirmation pop-up or something when the save is successful. Maybe it's a feature suggestion that I could add later. That would be really cool.
It's an interesting idea, yeah.
Yeah, so it's right there. And now we can just run the document. The Documenter is on NPM, and you can run it using npx. The advantage to running it with npx is that you will always get the latest version of the Documenter. Whereas if you were to install it globally using npm, you would always have that version, and you'd have to manually upgrade it. So that's why I prefer using npx for this. So you can just type npx Insomnia Documenter. I think you don't have to specify the config flag, but I'll do it anyway. Insomnia.json and press enter. Yes. And it's generated. It should be here, I believe. Yeah. So now if we run npx serve, well, I already installed serve. I can open it and it should work just fine. So that's how simple it is to get up and running.
It's really beautiful. I mean, that was the first thing. I guess you saw us our first reactions on because it was on stream, but
yeah,
I mean,
that was pretty flattering.
you did a great job with this. I got to tell you.
Thank you.
I think our second reaction was, how can we steal this thing that Joe and Hamid worked? How can we steal it and market it as?
I mean, I wouldn't mind. So it's MIT licensed after all, so it shouldn't be a problem.
I know.
We'll get to that. Actually, I have some questions for you guys on like I have some ideas anyway, and Philippe and I were talking. Yeah, we got some stuff to tell you, but cool.
That's cool. Yeah. So yeah, you've got a file, like a folder structure here, where you have very deeply nested folders that you can click on, and it's nicely structured here. You see each method type has a different color, which helps you distinguish it better. And the example requests are here. You can also copy them to the clipboard. You can see an example response if you've specified one. And you can also specify the status code of the responses. So you can have multiple example responses depending on what status code you receive from the server. And yeah, these are also distinguished with different colors depending on how bad the status code is. So I think that's pretty cool. And another thing that the Documenter supports is specifying environments. So now I'm in development. You can see that the URL is pointing to localhost 3000. But if I switch back to production, you can see the actual production URL. Can I zoom this in? Sorry. Yeah, you can see parameters, all the parameters that you can pass to your request. And you can specify another language. If you don't want to see the curl example, you can, for example, try node fetch, and you can see the equivalent of that request with node fetch. You can also copy it. And yeah, you also have a run in Insomnia button, which I believe was an idea suggested by Greg himself, like the person who created the Insomnia originally. He's a very cool guy, by the way.
Yeah, definitely.
Back when Insomnia was legit.
we're all big fans of Greg, of course, because it's because of Greg that we all have jobs. So we're very happy, and that Insomnia exists after all, independent of our jobs. We're very happy that he went along the path of making the product.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful product, honestly, and I'm very happy for him. I believe he's working for a different company now.
Yep. Yeah, he sold his startup, so I think he moved on. But it was definitely, I think, quite amicable, and we're all super pumped for the future.
Yeah, it's very cool. There are other configuration options that you can change to specify how the documentation page will behave. Because what's really happening under the hood, I'll show you the source real quick. This is the whole source of the documentation page. So it's all rendered using JavaScript. And basically all it does is fetches the Insomnia.json from the root. Like by default, it's trying to fetch it from the root, but you can specify a separate data attribute in the body to specify the exact location of the JSON file. So it's going to load that, and it's going to parse it like very quickly in the browser, and then render the whole page using Svelte. And that's cool and all, but I really want to, like, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but I do plan on rewriting the whole thing again sometime in the future. Like, the main motivation behind rewriting it would be to have this whole thing, like the whole HTML, be generated at the build time. So it's not going to send out the fetch request to get the data from the Insomnia JSON file. It's going to all be rendered in the static HTML file. That would be the main goal with it, and also to make things like easier for because I did see that in the last stream you struggled a bit, because I believe the plugin automatically adds a data root attribute. So I mean, it doesn't tell you that you have to store this this web page on a place that has the docs. I think it was the docs data root attribute.
Yeah, we got
that's
confused.
why it couldn't fetch the Insomnia JSON, and you saw a few errors there.
Well,
But
some of that is operator error as well, but I see it definitely can be improved. I know what you mean, but we like to go faster around here sometimes too hard.
yeah,
One
obviously.
of the things, one of the things that people might realize when they see the streams is that most of the times, me and Dimitri, we don't actually know how to use computers, and we're just faking as we go along.
I'm still learning about the internet. I just deleted my AOL Instant Messenger client yesterday, and it's really new to me, the whole thing. Anyway, what can you tell us more about what, like, I'm sorry if you wrote this somewhere in the repo and I missed it. Like, could you tell us more about what the motivations were for making this in the first place, and whether you use it now or what you use it for?
Well, I'm not sure how to mention this, because I don't know how much I can say about it.
Oh, okay. All right. Never mind.
But I'll make it a little bit vague. I've seen a different API testing tool have a similar feature with a similar documentation page.
You can mention Postman's name.
You can say the name.
Okay, so Postman
we won't start melting and stuff like that.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure if I can mention it, but yeah, Postman had something similar going on, and I couldn't see a tool that was generating I really like the way Postman did it. Like, it's a very similar page with the the nested routes and the nested folders and requests and the environment switches and all that stuff. I like that layout and I like that functionality, and I wanted something like that for Insomnia too. So that was the main motivation behind making something like this. I honestly didn't expect it to blow up like this. Like, it's my most popular repo right now. You see, it has like 409 stars, and yeah, it was very surprising to me that people actually use this thing. Yeah, and I'm very happy that
we didn't even know about it until Stalin, who is also here on the call, showed us about it. Like, there's tons of stuff that we're still learning about the community, that projects that the community is doing that we're not even we didn't know. There's so much thing out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons we're so happy to have you guys on here, because we're definitely trying to increase our awareness of some of this stuff. It's a weird world to live in, where like there's all these beautiful, wonderful things being done, but like we're so focused, on the app, that we don't know about it. We don't know about a lot of things, so we're trying to change that and improve on that, and that's that's where this comes from.
Yeah, thanks a lot to Stalin for the shout out of my project. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I was also a Postman user, but I didn't. It was too heavy for me, and it was. I started using Insomnia when it started too. At that time, I also liked the documentation feature in Postman. So, but I think I came a little bit late. So when I searched, I found your repo. So I started using it. So I am very grateful that you created it instead of waiting for it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for the kind words. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was going to mention that back when I made the documenter, Greg actually added it to the Insomnia repo. So if you go down to community projects, it's the first project that shows up here.
Oh, wow, that's embarrassing.
We
I
didn't read the README.
I don't. It's probably been a long time since we actually like really went through the README. That's great. Well, thank you for showing us that. We should do that. I didn't even realize there was that section there, admittedly. So, well, I told you we're trying to improve this. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, we can definitely. I almost want to have like a week or something where the whole team just does nothing but play with plugins together. I think that'd be really beneficial for us because there's so much good stuff like the one you're showing. There's so much good stuff here. So where do you fit into this into this puzzle? You made the CLI, is that right?
No. Joe made the CLI and I worked on the plugin.
Oh, okay. Oh, you made the plugin. Okay.
Okay, so
Tell us about it.
Okay. When I started using Insomnia tool, I was like looking for a documenter tool. So I saw his project, but then it was like a CLI tool. And as of that time, Insomnia does not support what's it called, this plugin interface yet. So I had to keep using the CLI tool. Then there was like after an update, I saw that there's now support for plugins. So I created an issue on the repo that it should convert it to plugin. But then at that time it was not like, I think it was busy at that time. So I had to look into the documentation myself. Then yeah, so that was my issue then. So I had to look into the documentation, the Insomnia plugin documentation myself, and I converted the CLI to a plugin that can be used in the app.
Awesome. What was so it was a while ago or almost 2 years ago now, but what was the experience like at the time? What do you remember or recall about doing it?
Okay, so what did I recall? I think, okay, now the plugin interface now is actually better than what I worked with then.
We're trying. It's been improved a little bit. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I watched the last week live stream. I saw you mentioned something about a template.
Yeah, would you maybe this is a good segue. I can tell you guys about like we as a team are not necessarily planning this, so I don't want to promise anything, but I can give you like a little inside view into something we've been talking about regarding the plugin interface as a means of asking you whether you think this would be beneficial to you guys. Let's do that. So let's open Insomnia. I have to find so one of the insights that I think we've had is that Insomnia has a plugin interface exposure for something that we call config generators. And I want to show, okay, so it's starting up here. So Insomnia config generators are, let's see, let's just go here. So I'm going to make a new collection, or was this before? This is from some PR, yeah. Okay, but this is not a request document. I'll just make a new, design document. So I'll make a new design document. So if I start start from an example, and then I hid my preview window really small. Okay, so we have here on the right the Swagger Pet Store UI via Swagger UI, I think it's called. Just so everyone's on the same page, Swagger UI, I think is what it's called. Yeah. So Swagger UI is like a tool, and here's a live demo. It's going to be very similar to the thing we're looking at in Insomnia. So what we did is we integrated this integrated this directly into Insomnia, and it's on the right here. What we also did, which is really close, is we created a plugin interface for a thing called config generators. And config generators are pretty simple. They take the input of the OpenAPI document and they output a string. In this case, this is declarative config, which is like a Kong thing, and this string is a JSON. There's also a Kong for Kubernetes plugin, and this is outputting YAML, which is a Kubernetes ingress controller. So these things are pretty simple because they're strings, and we just show them here. But the insight is they're very similar to the Swagger UI. I don't have the demo I was looking for it a second ago. I don't have it open in front of me, but I actually did one day, but it was like a year ago now. We've been talking about this idea for a while, but I made a demo where instead of the Swagger Pet Store being at the very top of the UI here, there are tab interfaces on the right, very similar to what you see in the debug tab. So how there's like a tabbed interface here, and you can switch between things exactly that way. And the first one, which is active in the beginning, is Swagger UI. The second one would be declarative config. The third one would be Kong for Kubernetes. And any other config generator that you have after that would be next. The difference is that with the Insomnia Documenter plugin that we were looking at, the input for the, correct me if I'm wrong, the input for this is not an OpenAPI config. Is that right?
Yep, it's not an API config. It's the export to the Insomnia JSON.
Itself. Right. So the export itself, which is like this stuff. But the insight is like, okay, maybe we can also give the config generator. Where did I go? That was this one. We can give the config generator both. We can give it the OpenAPI config, and we can also give it some other requests or whatever we want to do, so that if somebody wants to see, if they want a full page view or to see the like inside integrated into the app, they would see the Insomnia Documenter that we were just shown. I don't have it open right now. Maybe I have it installed. I probably do have. No, oh, that's a different thing with the thing. Insomnia. No, I don't have it installed right now. So that's really the idea. Is like this is a place. This window is a place where we can kind of see that kind of stuff. And config generators, it's kind of a push a little bit from config generators, because you could theoretically have nothing here, but then still have your documentation here in a tab. But it's a reasonable place. I think it's like a, generally acceptable place to put it in the application, and it provides us like quite a lot of functionality. And then we would skip everything. So like the UX that you were talking about, Joe, about the name of the file and where it is on disk and setting the HTML and all this stuff, all of those problems melt away because it doesn't matter anymore. It's dynamically generated based on this stuff. So if I come over here and I changed this to have some other content in here, and I come back, then I would see that reflected in the how do I say in the spec. In the spec view or in the window itself. And this is the idea. And then we don't have to, you don't have to be in a situation where you're kind of going back and forth like that, if that makes any sense. So what do you guys think about that? Hamed, you dropped and came back. I don't know if you missed anything, or I'm happy to repeat. But how does that sound in general?
Okay, so you're saying you want to like expose like a config generator interface for plugins, right?
Well, we do already. So let me try to pull up the code. We do have config generator. 1 second. Let me grab the code, and then we can have it on the screen and talk apples to apples. So, for example, this is the declarative config plugin, and it exposes a config generator from source.generate. Let's go there. So this is the Insomnia. So the shape of this object here is the Insomnia plugin interface for config generators. And right now, it's only like this function returns a string. It's called document, and it returns a string.
Okay.
The thing that we would change is it would actually, like, we could have the Swagger UI as a plugin. That would be like the first acceptance criteria. Insomnia is exactly the same as it is, except that we extract Swagger UI to be a plugin. And just like we did with declarative config and conk for Kubernetes, the difference is this is not just a string. This is a full-on web page. This is it responds, well, it doesn't respond that great, but it does respond to the Insomnia theme, for example. And that isn't a requirement for for making a plugin. We're not going to force, we can't force anyone anyway. If we wanted to, we wouldn't force anyone to use the theming system, but you could. All of a sudden you could, and that's one thing the Insomnia Documenter doesn't do. Is that right, Joe? It doesn't. It's only one theme, right? There's no dark theme or anything like that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, there aren't themes right now.
Right. But Insomnia has a whole theme system, and you could hook into that theming system the same way that we themed the Swagger Pet Store. I'm sorry, I keep saying Swagger Pet Store, but it's Swagger UI. It's just this thing is called. Here, I can fix that. Swagger.
It's the same.
Swagger UI. I just keep reading it because it's on the screen.
It's a conspiracy, Dimitri. It's actually Swagger Pet Store all along.
I wonder though, because like pet stores, I mean, I'm not like a animal rights activist or something, but like I always look at these examples and they're like, find pet by status, sold, or like, I don't know. They're just, it's a weird example. We didn't come up with this Swagger Pet Store. This is from the Swagger. If you go to swagger.io and look for examples, this is like the one that they always use. But it's weird that like, couldn't they have been like a shoe shop or something? Or I don't know.
Yeah, but the shoe shop, then you jump into the examples of sweatshops and children making shoes. And, like whatever you do, you're always threading like a thin line of career limiting possibilities.
It could be something about a garden. Everyone has gardens everywhere in the world, right? Everyone grows like plants. I don't know. All right. Well, anyway,
I use the dinosaur park.
Dinosaur park. Yeah, that's good because you love Jurassic
Park. I don't call it Jurassic Park for obvious reasons, but dinosaur park.
For anyone listening, if you hang around with Philippe at all, one of the first things you'll learn is he loves Jurassic Park. Okay, well, so that's the concept, is that instead of config generator, the generate command only being able to return a document, it can also return like a React component. And this is not actually that wild, because we do have other components that return React components. For example, the deploy to portal. This is code. This is React code that the plugin creates. We don't, we didn't put this into the application, even though it ships with Insomnia. It's actually a plugin that's just bundled with Insomnia. And you can go look at the plugin and see how it works. So we could use exactly the same kind of thing to allow people to, create React components, or it doesn't have to be React. It can be Svelte, it can be Angular 1, whatever makes you happy. But if you want to use React, you're going to have the benefits of the theming system. Actually, we're using CSS variables, so I guess maybe you could make it work with any front-end framework, even without React. But the point is that it would be generated all the time, and it would be here in the UI natively, so you don't have to build anything, like any machinery for storing like you wouldn't have to do any of the exporting. You would just skip all of the export stuff. You just get the full Insomnia thing and export whatever you want to call it, everything that's going on, because you'd have access to it all. And then from here, you can, you can do it that way. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, well, like I said, I do want to completely rewrite the documenter. And funnily enough, I did want to rewrite it using React, because nowadays I'm just a lot more comfortable with React.
Awesome.
And like, for static generation, I could use something like Next.js, like for the documenter itself. But I also kind of wanted to make it a reusable library. So something that you can also dynamically use to completely manipulate how you want your output and input. And I think by making a library, I could also make it so it will generate this declarative configs that you've mentioned, and it can also kind of just you could directly use it in the plugin too, so you don't have to actually download the binary from npm and just run it in the background, because I believe that's
Right.
what Hamed did with the current plugin. So you could all just it could all just be code. So code goes in, and code comes out. Basically, that would be the main motivation behind it, and it would be like a lot more flexible than it is right now, because you could specify what kind of configuration you're using. For example, if you don't want to use the JSON file, you can use the YAML file, or the same goes with these declarative configs or the Open API spec. All of that would have support, kind of like modules or drivers for it, if you want to call them that. But yeah, that's what it basically doing. That's what it would basically do as a library. And then the binary itself would just run, we just use that code from the library and run it based on your configuration. So that would be the main motivation behind it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think you can do like you're saying. If you want to keep it as its own library, I think like to be separate, you could do that. I mean, would it work for you if you could also have? I mean, you could integrate a download button or something into Insomnia, but you're saying you like the. I'm asking so many questions, but are you saying you like the part where you don't need Insomnia at all? You can just have the export, run the CLI, and get the website.
No, not necessarily.
Oh, okay, all right, great.
What I meant by that is that I want to make it as flexible as possible. So you could use it both in Insomnia, like directly in Insomnia, like you presented with the Swagger Pet Store. I mean Swagger UI.
I'm not
I made the exact
one.
same mistake.
That's good. It's easy. I don't know. It's easy mistake to make.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know why I just said Pet Store. It's right in front of me.
You can blame me.
Maybe. Okay, so you could use it directly in Insomnia with all the theming and all the reactive components and stuff. And you could also use it as a plugin interface, like the same way Hamed's plugin currently works. And you could also use it as a CLI tool. But the library itself wouldn't care. It just receives some parameters and it will output whatever you ask from it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't care where you use it, basically.
Exactly.
It's kind of like a smaller parser for the whatever documentation formats or export formats you want to give to it. And then the output could be code, for example, or it could be an HTML document, anything basically.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's kind of where where it all comes down to is that's what React is good at, is exactly what you said. Like, it's a parameterized input. The components themselves don't care at all where the data comes from. If it came from a flat file like JSON export, or if it came from a live running app, it makes no difference to the actual running application what happened one way or the other. So yeah, that's definitely going to work pretty well. I think you should have pretty good success with that. But in order to integrate it into the application, we're going to need to expose that a little more into the config generator side of things. I know that the demo that I did that simply like moved the config generator stuff onto the tab. By the way, there are other really big benefits of us doing that. The one of them is if you want to like see how the Open API spec changes, or in your case, it would be you want to see how these things change at the same time. Like if I type here, I don't know what the generated config looks like, but if I have it open all the time in a tab on the right, just like the Swagger UI is, then I can see what's going on as I'm typing Open API. I can see what the resulting declarative config or the resulting Kong for Kubernetes looks like, or whatever the config generation stuff is. I think in the demo, I gave a demo internal to the company about like how this would work if we wanted to do this. And I think I just made like a loud YAML plugin that uppercased all letters in the YAML file, just to show like, and it was a one-line plugin. I mean, just to show, because like I can write it. I mean, you would say like generate, contents, and then you'd say like contents to uppercase. That was the whole plugin. And if a label and whatever as well, but like that's all that you need to do to create that functionality, and it shows up in the list and it's there and it works. And so it'd be something very similar where instead for you would be grabbing your React component, like whatever, it would be like export. It would be like this. And then you would have that same thing here. So we would have to add this part or something like that. Maybe it would be more granular, because there's lots of things in the export. There's environments and cookies and workspaces, and there's like a lot of things there in the export. When you do even a very minimal export, there's metadata attached.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have
So,
to be an export. Sorry.
Okay, so I'm already doing something like that actually in the existing code. If you check the Insomnia plugin documenter, I'm using, so there's this export method exposed from Insomnia. So that's what I'm using to generate the config.
Yep.
So yeah, that part.
Yep. Definitely. And you can do that with a kind of app side plugin. The thing is that there's nowhere in the app to put it right now. It's like if we did it here, it's integrated more closely into the app, and that is what it is. It's like a generator. Config generator is maybe the wrong term, so we would have to think about maybe renaming that or something. But we'd always support the old name as long for a couple months or something. But yeah, I mean that's definitely the idea. Is very similar to what you're talking about to get the export.
Yes.
Yeah, and my idea of the flow that it could have, it could use, is if you go back to your declarative config generator example,
Yes.
the code, not the.
Oh, okay. Yep. Here.
Yeah. So here you would basically import the library, and then like at the top, the way you import OpenAPI to Kong right now.
Yep.
And then in the generate callback, you could pass it to a function that's imported from that library. And then that would generate the React component or the HTML for it. But it's probably going to be a React component anyway. And yeah, that would be it. So it gives enough flexibility for any tool to work with the format, like either of the Insomnia export or the OpenAPI spec.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the idea is we create like a it would probably look something like this. Lib, and then here we have, I don't know, so it would be something like this,
Yeah, that's kind of how I imagined it to work. Or maybe it could be like a completely separate function in the exports that would just generate the whole declarative config for you. That also could be an option. So you don't have to manually do that in your own generate function. It would just export automatically, and you can pass some parameters to it to really define how it's going to show up.
Yeah,
that could also be an alternative.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, we'll definitely consult you guys when we're working. If the day comes when we're working on this, we're kind of heads down, I have to say, at this exact moment on a different project with Insomnia. But in like a month or two, well, it's July, in like 2 or 3 months, let's say, we're gonna. I mean, the day is coming when we're gonna take a step back and look at plugins and see what we can do to really improve the plugin interface on a broad level. Because I think there's a lot of value that you people are adding to the product by making these plugins, and we want to take learnings from that. And this is a good example of that. Something that you wanted to do that you couldn't. We want to be able to add the functionality back into the app to provide you the kind of like API surface to be able to accomplish that same thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't think the whole rewrite of the documenter will come in the next 1 or 2 months, definitely. So
Great. So then we can collaborate then as you're doing it, because it'd be nice
yeah,
to have like a you could try it out as we're going also and tell us what you think about it, and you could be instrumental to developing the API service. And same for anyone watching on the stream who's not here today. Stalin, you as well. We want to definitely get people's input on what would make sense for this and how it would be. I mean, I guess even here on the screen, we saw two sort of different approaches that I sketched out for how we could absolutely, or how we could actually accomplish this. Hamed, you were gonna say something? Can you hear us? I don't know if there's an internet problem because he's been jumping back and forth. But if you come back on, just speak up and we'll definitely tell you. So yeah, I mean that's basically the thing we wanted to cover today. I mean, I'm really glad that I just can't thank you enough. I know we already said a bunch of times, expressed our appreciation, but I mean, it's really cool to see stuff like this. And we really want to have, it matters to us. And Kong itself, Kong is an open source company. Open source is very near and dear to Kong's heart. Our main product, breadwinning product of the company, is an open source project as well. And we really do deeply care about this. Sometimes I see on Hacker News, people talking about Insomnia, saying like, oh, Insomnia was acquired. If you search this, you'll see people saying, oh, Insomnia was acquired by Kong, T-minus 10 months until it becomes bloatware.
It lost its soul to corporate greed.
Well, it's been a couple of years now, and I think that we've actually done the opposite. I think we've been doubling down on, trying to, cater more to the community, try to get people, in front of us, and so we can see what they're building, and also to get us in front of them so they can see that we want to help and actually helping. Of course, intentions go. Well, who was the one that said? Was it like Gerald Ford or something said like nobody's career was founded on what they intended to do or something. So we try to make it not just intentions either. We want to really execute on these initiatives and get them done and deliver. So that's what we're trying to do. We'll see how it goes. I think it's been going pretty well so far, but it's always a challenge to balance. Hamed, you're back and forth, but hopefully, I don't know if you can hear us now.
One quick question, Dimitri.
Sure. Yeah.
Right now, can you take Insomnia, open Insomnia?
Sure.
So the open spec we have written there, so it is converted in real time to the view here, right?
Yes.
And are we parsing it at a later point? Are we parsing from the open spec that YAML, or are we using some internal tools to create these requests in the debug tab?
I didn't hear the subject of your sentence. Are we passing what?
Are we using, is there a wrapper or a helper method? Because even if the format is YAML or JSON, the request is created on debug. So is there a middleware between this?
YAML is almost a superset of JSON. There are some it's possible to construct a JSON document that's not valid YAML. Fun fact, but we use a YAML parser no matter whether you're passing the OpenAPI spec as JSON or YAML. And again, this thing with the Swagger UI is not a plugin today. It's hard-coded and shipped and bundled directly with the application. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. But even if I'm writing a JSON spec over here in JSON format, open spec in JSON format, it is still under the hood. It is still converted to YAML and then used by Insomnia. Am I right?
No, it's not actually converted to YAML. It's parsed by a YAML parser. The flat file format is not really relevant to Insomnia. What happens is that we use this. It's called a Swagger parser.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, OpenAPI parser, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
Something like that. So we take in the document, and because YAML, like for example, this is valid YAML. A lot of people don't. Let's grab this. Stop. Watch me fail. Here we are. It's gonna say property. What's the problem? Must have required property URL. Did I get the spacing wrong somewhere? Well, anyway, this is valid. Like this on the screen. I don't know what the problem is with the linter, but this is valid. I can tell you with pretty high certainty, this is valid YAML, and you can keep going from there. Also, this is valid YAML, and so is this.
Okay.
So
basically, all valid JSON is also valid YAML.
Well, okay, I'll just say
Almost.
I'm a bit of a nerd. So JSON on this topic, I hate YAMLs with a. I don't like to use the word hate in public too much, but I have to say, I've spent a decent amount of time with YAML, and it's not my favorite thing. There's a running.
I don't think anybody genuinely likes YAML.
Yeah,
That's
basically, yeah.
I wish that were true, but I can send you over to people in the Kubernetes world that really love it.
Yeah,
For some reason, the Docker and the Kubernetes communities just really love YAML. I'm not sure why.
I was just gonna say, like, there's people whose job is to work with YAML files all the time. So,
where's the spec here? So if you read the spec, there's a thing with there is a difference also with like is it UTF-8 encoding, but let's see, duplicate, it's on like the 4th page here, object. So here's the difference. We're opening up specs today. Okay. Here, does not require the name strings be unique. What this means is that, where's my thing I had open? This in front of you is a valid, okay, it's not actually JSON, so like we have to say json.parse. Here, let's make this a little bigger. Oh, and then we have to do, okay.
I think we can just assign it to a variable. That would be easier. Okay.
Yeah, either way, this here is valid JSON. If we look at the YAML spec, YAML.org spec, where am I just blind? Okay, right here. Okay. You see here the content of a mapping node, which is for objects, key value pairs, with the restriction that each key is unique. So this is a core difference, and I think they even call out that this is the difference between YAML. This is one of the difference between YAML and JSON, somewhere in the spec. At one point, I have read almost this whole spec, but yeah, that's one big difference. So that's a place where we're like super far afield now, but we're gonna end in a second anyway, and we're just having fun. But that's one difference, and aside from that, mostly this has been a pretty straightforward experience. If for us anyway, like if you want to put YAML or JSON here, it doesn't really matter. So I don't know if there are any other thoughts on that, but we could get into, we can get into all kinds of things with YAML funniness. YAML is a very deep topic. YAML, fun fact, it was written in Haskell. The reference parser is written in Haskell. And I think it's the only thing ever written in Haskell that's actually been used in production that's not developer tooling. Haskell developer tooling. No, anyway. The joke, I don't know. You've never done Haskell development. I think
the Haskell community will chase us.
You understand my joke is that, like,
Yeah, I haven't done much Haskell development. I've mainly only done it for college. I recreated the Wordle in Haskell, basically.
That's
like
cool.
A CLI version of Wordle.
Oh, that's
really
neat.
all of the serious Haskell projects that I've
Just
written.
like, it's so funny to me if you look around the world, like if you try to find like what are the Haskell I love Haskell and OCaml and functional programming is like, I really love all that stuff. However, I have to admit, like when you look around for things that are in production using Haskell, it's not easy to find stuff. And the majority of the things that have been done are Haskell tooling, which is like, there's a joke somewhere deep in there about pure functional programming where there's the inputs and the outputs are, you know, deterministic and there's no side effects. It seems like when you work in Haskell, there's no side effect of getting anything done. You just like, you work on Haskell tooling to write better Haskell. And then, you know, I don't know.
I believe Meta uses Haskell for some of their internal tools.
Yeah,
Yes.
maybe, yeah, somebody does somewhere. But anyway, have you used have you used Haskell before, or you know about somebody using it? No, oh, I heard you said yes. Anyway, well, that was really fun, and I really enjoyed it, and we'll definitely be pinging you guys in the future to, you know, hit you up when things like this change and we get more work and effort putting time into the plugin interface. We're going to be getting to it some point here. It's on I know it is on a roadmap somewhere, but I just don't know what the timelines are for it. But honestly, if the changes are small enough, like the thing I was showing with the config generator was being a tab, that was not a big change. Like that was like a 50-line PR. Maybe I can go dig it up. It was, like I said, it was at least a year ago, probably more, that I did that. But you know, hopefully over time, we're going to have more stuff like that coming in, and we can merge those things as we're living and going through the paces on some other initiative. If it's not a big, like, total overhaul, usually we can maintain our product on a day-to-day basis pretty easily. So, well, thank you guys for coming on. We'll leave it at that, and we really appreciate it. And we'll see everyone next week. For those watching, just a recap. If you'd like to come join us, you can go to chat. I forgot to do this in the beginning. You can go to chat.insomnia.rest. There you'll find the stream channel. We always share the stream to the general channel, so even if you don't join it, eventually you'll find your way. And yeah, from there we can keep moving. So, all right. Well, thanks again, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.